So I'm going to be talking about the article regarding land use regulations and compliance in Argentina. Essentially, Argentina has one of the most highly regulated permitting systems in all South America. But as such, there are very, very high levels of non-compliance, basically meaning a lot of people will not follow the regulations and will live in illegally occupied land. Like a fifth of households live in illegally occupied land. This is mostly due to the fact they're not able to get permits, but also because the price for houses is incredibly high. The average price for legal lot is 19 times higher than annual disposable income. So it's incredibly difficult to obtain a legal lot. Mostly because of this, there is lots of heterogeneous land usage, meaning that there are lots of wealthy neighborhoods, gay communities, and shopping malls, next to incrementally built developments, agricultural developments. This is not dissimilar to many parts of South America, but Argentina in specific kind of had a rapid and intense growth in the 1990s in terms of heterogeneous land usage. A lot of these problems are due to uncoordinated regulation. Argentina does not have a national urban policy. A lot of that policy falls to municipalities instead. This article in specific focuses on 3 major cities to analyze their regulation and compliance. Rosario, Cordoba, and Buenos Aires kind of analyze how they function differently when it comes to urban policy and regulation. So this article kind of tests 2 main hypotheses. Firstly, that strict regulation at the municipal level will be negatively correlated with compliance. So basically, the more regulation there is, the less compliance there will be. And secondly, that strict regulation will lead to lower prices for formal land. This is kind of counterintuitive to how the US works, where stricter regulations generally lead to higher prices. There's just an hypothesis that in Argentina, stricter regulation will lead to lower prices for places that actually are formal land and have the designated permits. To gather the data for this analysis, they sent out 3 surveys to the 3 major cities. One, a parcel level survey towards housing owners and homeowners. Secondly, a survey for housing developers. And thirdly, a survey for public officials. Taking the data, they did some econometric analysis and came to 3 major conclusions. Firstly, that the average price of land in municipalities with greater level of compliance is higher. So that kind of falls in line, not a hypothesis, but it falls in line with what how the US functions, and that if there's more compliance with regulation, land price will be higher. Secondly, they found out that stringent land use are associated with lower rates of compliance. This is consistent with the first hypothesis, basically reaffirming the fact that stricter regulation is negatively correlated with compliance. Thirdly, they found that due to negative externalities, higher income households disliked residing in low compliance areas, making those low compliance areas have lower prices. This is also consistent with the second hypothesis, where stricter regulations will lead to lower prices for formal land. So basically, through their analysis and data, they failed to reject either hypotheses. The article ends with 2 recommendations for Argentina and their housing regulation. Firstly, they recommend the need for housing policy that encourages incremental housing developments, so allowing people to have a smaller house at first and build and build and build off of that. And secondly, to subsidize low-income households to obtain permits and just make it easier to actually purchase legally bought land and obtain those permits and not have to live illegally.